The Screaming Banshees. Have you heard of them? I'm sure you have. There's even a band called the Screaming Banshees. But they actually go back to Irish folklore, spirits, or fairies. But let me tell you about them. And welcome to the Brac Shop. Now, this is the portal to the spiritual, the paranormal, and the unexplained. And I'm Tom from the shop. So welcome back. Now, I'm going to be speaking about banshees. In fact, I'll tell you a story of what happened to me when I went to the cemetery the other day. So we'll stay tuned for that. Have you heard about banshees? In fact, there was a group that was actually named the Screaming Banshees. But that's basically got nothing to do about the Irish banshees. Now, it goes back to Irish folklore, and banshees were spirits, part of the fairy kingdom. In fact, the word banshee, going back to ancient times, actually means woman, and the she meaning fairy. So, banshee actually means woman, fairy. However, when you trace it further back by the scholars and the traditionalists, she actually means other world. So really, banshee translates to mean woman of the other world. Now, the banshee, why is she so significant? Well, apparently, if you see a banshee or if you hear her, now she is that wail in the middle of the night that you hear. Well, you don't normally hear, because if you should hear or see her, it usually foretells that there is a death coming to someone in the family or near you. Now, don't forget, if you like this episode, please click the like button. Tell your friends and share the video as well. And if it's your first time, welcome. And I hope you enjoy it. And subscribe so you won't miss out. And click the bell and the notification so you won't miss out on the next one. So, the banshee, what do you think? People have said that if they hear her or if they see her, someone in the family is going to die. And that's why the banshee is feared so much. But apparently, when you look into it, and according to Dr. Emily Zanker, originally, the banshee is really a spirit that comes to tell someone that their time is due and to get ready and get your affairs in order. And so it wasn't a scary sort of thing. It was like a messenger telling you that it's time to move on and get everything in order. And so in a way, it was a bit of a consolation, really. Mind you, they never brought the death. They were just the bearer of the news, so to speak. Now, a banshee, if you see a banshee, what does a banshee look like? Now, the majority of the times, she's described as being a very elderly woman, maybe old, with long grey hair, flowing long hair, and she's always combing it. However, there are times when she's being portrayed as a young girl, a very young girl, like late teens or early 20s. And usually she represents someone that's been murdered or died in childbirth. So they're the two variations. And there's apparently different types of banshees. They're probably the most common ones. And you do sometimes get the sort that will create a lot of havoc and so much distress for someone that they do go and kill themselves. And these are the ones that usually are depicted in the movies. And they make them up to be probably more than what they are. Now, the Banshee, it almost seems like they're actually dedicated to one family. And they usually belong to the ancient and noble Irish families. And usually families starting with an O, like the O'Rourkes or the O'Learys, for instance. And also the Mercs, like the MC and the MAC, like the MacDonalds. Although they tend to be Scottish, but that seems to be the tradition. So it seems like banshees are actually allocated to a family line. In fact, the Welsh actually have their own banshees as well. And it seems that they actually could be an ancestral family member from way back. And they've been watching over the family, or there's been other guides, you could say, that have been watching over the family and have told them. And so the Banshee comes to let them know their time is up. And they've been in the family for years, for decades, maybe centuries. So that is the Banshee, who we sometimes actually refer to as part of the fairy folk of Ireland. Now, some people think that the wailing sound of the Banshee might have actually been an owl. Now, years ago, there used to be lots of owls in Ireland. Come out at night. They're nocturnal birds, so they hunt at night, and they have a cry, which naturally they do at night because that's when they come out. And apparently their cry is such a shriek that apparently it can send shivers down your spine. And someone may have heard an owl, and then unfortunately the next few days someone passed away. And so they were thinking maybe that is actually the sound or the shriek or the wail of a banshee. And that's how a banshee has been associated with a wailing sound. What's your idea on that? Now, there's been lots of different stories where people have heard a banshee, or maybe it was an owl they heard, or seen someone that looked like a banshee, and people have passed away the next day or the next few days. Some very strange stories have been told. Now, one story that I heard, which was from Eddie Lenniam, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He's an Irish storyteller, author, and he recalls a story that he was told by someone that when he was, well, this other person was a young boy, he was working at the fair with his father and uncle, and it was at the night, and they'd finished for the night and on their way home. And it was like a very late night fair because it was almost dawn on the way home. So they were almost home, and they saw this lady sitting on the wall. Might have been like a very low wall, like a low fence maybe. And she looked very much like a banshee. She was elderly, she had long grey hair, and she was combing it. Now, him and his father passed her, and his father said hello to her, and she didn't do anything. She kept combing her hair. Then the uncle who was behind them did the same thing as well, said hello, and she didn't do anything, kept combing her hair. So just as a joke, just to get a reaction, the uncle went and snatched the comb from her hand. She gave him a look and let out this horrendous shriek, and it just scared them like anything, and they just bolted off into the front yard and into the house. Now, it was almost dawn, as I was saying, so the mother was up and she was cooking breakfast. And she looked at them as they barged in through the doorway, and she said, "What's going on?" And then she saw the comb in his hand, and she said, "What's that?" And he said, "It's a comb that I just took from this woman outside." And basically she knew what it was, and she said, "Close the door immediately." And she closed it, and there was this great big scream that just surrounded the whole house. And the uncle said, "Well, I'll just give it back to her." And she said, "No, you don't." And she took the tongs. Now, in the olden days, the fireplaces always had tongs. They were like these metal, to look at them, they probably look like scissors, but they were so you could pick up hot things and not burn your fingers, like wood and coal, to put them in the fire so your fingers wouldn't get burned. So she took the metal tongs, and she took the comb, and she slowly opened the door and put the tongs out for this woman to get the comb. And all of a sudden, the tongs were snatched from her hand, and the mother quickly shut the door. And all of a sudden, the boy said, there was silence. It was an unearthly silence. And he said it seemed like it went for about 10 minutes, but he said it was probably about 10 seconds. And so by then it was dawn, the sun had come up, and the mother went to the window and she looked outside, and she could see the tongs on the footpath outside, and it was all bent and twisted. And she called them over to have a look, and she said to the uncle, "You see, if you had taken that comb and put it out the door for her to take, that would have been your hand, your arm on the footpath now." And so that was their story. But apparently, from Eddie Lenihan, no one died from that story. So maybe, or maybe she wasn't for them, and he just disturbed her by annoying her and taking her comb. What do you think? Now, the very strangest thing that happened to me a few days ago, because I went to Brompton Cemetery, and you can see the episode where I did on Brompton Cemetery. So I went there, and I kid you not, just doing all this research, the coincidence of this, as I was walking in and past the chapel, there was a lady standing there. She was dressed quite contemporary. She had trousers on and a jacket, and she had long greyish hair that was turning grey, and she was combing it. I could not believe my eyes. She was actually combing it. I was very tempted to take a picture, but I thought, I better not. Just don't know about privacy and all that sort of thing. So I just went on my way. I didn't want to disturb her or tempt fate. But I'll let you know if anything comes from that, or if I'm still here next week. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And again, if you've liked this episode, please click the like button, share the video, tell your friends, come along and watch it, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed as yet, so you won't miss out on my other episodes, and press the bell and the notifications as well. And if you'd like to continue this conversation, we also have a Facebook group. the Brac Shop. So please join the Brac Shop so we can continue our conversations, and you can post questions and items there and answer questions as well. I'd like to get it going and interactive. And also, if you'd like to find out about spiritual products like candles and incense and crystals, have a look at our affiliate links down below, because we're affiliated with UK's #1 spiritual store, and they deliver worldwide for a very reasonable fee as well, and the prices in general are quite reasonable. So do have a look at the links below. Thanks for watching. Keep well and happy. It helps with the vibrations.